Welcome back to the DaBoot Tragedy. The Saints lose another stunner, another heartbreaker in London against the Minnesota Vikings. Lost off a double doink field goal attempt from 61 yards. A lot of good things in this game, a lot of bad things. I think a lot of suspect decisions by the coaching staff. And we'll just jump right into it. I'll start with the defensive side of the ball. And we'll just start off with Marshawn Lattimore. Obviously, all-pro corner, was having an absolute fantastic year up until the game against the Vikings, going up against Justin Jefferson, one-on-one basically the entire game. Justin Jefferson got the better of him. It happens, man. Justin Jefferson's arguably the best receiver in football, and Marshawn Lattimore just couldn't handle it against him. Now, he's not to blame for the entire loss or anything like that, but when Justin Jefferson has 13 targets, 10 catches, 147 yards, and you're all-pro corner, that's just not a good look. Adam Thielen also had a good game against Paulson Adebo. Since I'm on corners, Paulson Adebo didn't look like he was, up to 100% still. Looks like he's still trying to gain that game speed. First game, fully starting, so, he gets kind of a pass on that point. But I do think our secondary played a very bad game, at least at the cornerback position. I think Roby played an okay game. In the slot, he looks much better there, much more comfortable there than, he did on the outside in the first couple games. Now we'll move to that front seven on the defensive front. I do think our defensive line had a pretty good game against the Vikings. I think held them to 3.8 yards to carry. That's big. If you can hold a team to under 4 yards to carry as a defensive unit, that's a big thing. Pete Warner once again had a special game, man, in pass coverage. Would have led the team in tackles, but Marshawn Lattimore did because he gave up so many catches. I think that Mario Davis actually had a pretty good game too. I think that was his best game this year. He's finally getting in the groove. Also had a sack with 9 tackles. Tyrann Mathieu, he's still missing too many tackles for my liking. Did finish with 7. Did have 1 pass deflection. Did have an interception. So he had an okay game, but tackles have to be made back there, man. They just have to. I believe Shy Tuttle and Kentavious Street had a nice little rotation together. Obviously, Shy Tuttle's a good run stopper. That's why we're always good against the run. And when Kentavious Street came in, he rushed the passer very well. This game, I think Cam Jordan and Davenport looked better. Davenport had his best game. Only had 1 tackle and a half sack, but he was getting pressure, got 2 quarterback hits. Cam Jordan was good in the run game, which he always is, and got some pressures on Kirk Cousins as well. He had 3 quarterback hits, so that was real good from both of those guys. I do want to speak on David Anyamada. Where has he been this year? I just don't know what's going on with him, but he's just not looked the same. He played 68% of the snaps against the Vikings. He didn't record a single stat. Not a pressure, not a quarterback hit, not a combined tackle, not a solo tackle, not an assist, not anything. I know you're defensive tackle, and stats really, don't tell a story for him. But, man, he's a really, really good player, and we're going to need him to step it up, man. It's just simple. We're going to need him to step it up. He has to make plays for us. I don't care how you do it. I know you're facing double teams. I know you're doing this. I know you're doing that. But, man, anybody can find an excuse. He has to step it up for us. This defense has to be better. I do want to touch on Dennis Allen for a quick second. I do think it's taken him some time to get adjusted to this head coaching role, having to kind of worry about the offense as well and the defense. I think it's a lot going on right now. I do think I'm going to say in over his head, but I do think it's a tough adjustment because when the Vikings ran that fake punt against the Saints, it was no reason that our defense shouldn't have been on the field. It always should be, and personally, in my opinion, you should always have your defense on the field if it's going to be a punt that's going to land inside the 10-yard line. You're never going to return that punt anyway. It's highly unlikely that you'll get a punt return. So just keep the defense on the field, put a punt returner out there. It all could be so simple, man. But I think that, you're just kind of going through the motion of things. You're putting your punt guys out there because you want to get those guys out there and get your defense a break for a play. But if it's 4th and 4 from the 50-yard line, keep your defense out there. Just keep your defense out there, man. That's a head coaching decision. I do put that blame on him for that fake punt. Also, it's 1 minute and 38 seconds left in the game, and you give up an easy drive, a very, very easy drive to the Minnesota Vikings. You can't have that. You can't have that. I know Marshawn Lattimore got beat deep on that play, and that's your guy. You left him one-on-one. But, man, you just can't have that. We had 3 timeouts. That defense is supposed to be, carrying us this year. I was looking for a 3 and out, maybe get the ball back, and have a chance to score. That didn't happen. Ultimately, it lost us the game. So we're gonna definitely have to get better from a coaching standpoint, a defensive standpoint. If I had to get a defensive grade, I'll give them a C minus. I do think those penalties. I'll get into that later. Never mind. I'll get into that later. Not gonna rant right now. Let's get through the offense first. All right, offensively. Offensively, I think we looked okay for the first time, man. Okay. Didn't have Michael Thomas, that hurt. Didn't have Alvin Kamara, that hurt. But we did look okay. Andy Dalton, man, I think he had a solid game. 20 for 28, 236 yards, 1 touchdown. Got sacked twice and fumbled. Huge fumble. I'll give him the same criticism that I would give Jameis Winston in that situation. You cannot have that at the end of the half. Take the sack, hold the damn ball, do not fumble it. He also should have thrown a pick, but he didn't, so we're not going to get into should-haves and would-haves. But you can't take that sack at the end of the half, can't fumble that ball, give them a free 3 points. Can't have that. Other than that, I think he looked good. He did spread the ball around. I mean, Olave 7 targets, Callaway 6, Troutman 3, Johnson 4, Traquan had a couple, Ingram, Latavius Murray, Jarvis didn't really get involved. I think he was still hobbled out there, only had 2 catches, 7 yards. But, man, he did spread the ball around. He did look good. This is without Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. So, offense, I do think they look good, man, starting with Andy Dalton. He should just not fumble the damn ball, and he could have had a much better game, in my opinion. Chris Olave, let's just talk about him. He's a stud, man. He's an absolute stud. He's been our best player on offense this year. Like, it's not even been close who's been our best player. It's been Chris Olave. Yeah, I know Michael Thomas has the touchdowns, and he's Michael Thomas, and obviously he's our number 1 receiver. But, man, Chris Olave, he's been there every week, and he's been making plays for us every week. This guy has been amazing. So, people, I know we're 1-3. I know y'all are crying about that first-round draft pick that we don't have. We shouldn't have traded our first-round pick. Tell me a player that you're going to find in next year's draft that's going to be better than Chris Olave. It's going to be hard. It's going to be very, very hard to do that, to find that. Maybe, but it's all maybes. We know we have in Chris Olave already. This guy's a number 1 receiver already, the future number 1 receiver of this team. Like, I am okay with trading that first-round pick because this is what it's turned into. I do want to mention the offensive line for a quick second. I think they played a fantastic game in the run game. Run game, fantastic. Those guys can run block. It's been evident that we struggled in past situations this year. They did again in this game. They struggled a little bit, protection early. But I think late in run game, they looked great, man. Latavius Murray, 11 carries, 57 yards. He's obviously our running back, too. Let's just get that out the way. He's better than Mark Ingram. He is much better than Mark Ingram. I'm watching this guy, break off 6-yard runs, 8-yard runs, 5-yard runs. And Mark Ingram comes in 1 yard, 2 yards, 2 yards. It's just, I don't know what it is, but that's just how it's been. Latavius Murray has to be our number running back too, in my opinion. You just have to have him. Taysom had a pretty good game on the ground, 5 carries, 21 yards, and a touchdown. Didn't really see him too much at the receiving end just because he was the backup quarterback, and you just, you don't want to get that involved, and he gets hurt, and then Dalton gets hurt, and then, yeah, you don't want to have that. So offensively, man, we get a grade of, we still started off slow. I'll give us a B+. I think that was our best showing as an offense of this season. I mean, it wasn't much to go up against because we haven't done nothing on offense this year. But I do think they had a pretty good showing. Now, to the NFL, to Roger Goodell, to the NFL referees, cut the bullshit out. Can you please cut it out? I am tired of these phantom calls on the Saints in every game. Every time the game gets close, every time the Saints are making a run, every time the Saints are about to win a game, the refs step in and they call some bullshit. It's simple as that. I'm trying so hard every game not to blame the referees for a loss because you still have chances to win the game even with the nonsense that they're doing. But the illegal hands to the face on Tyrann Mathieu is probably one of the worst calls I've ever seen. Like, honestly, what the hell are you looking at? Who called that penalty? I need to know what ref called that flag and where he was standing for him to think he saw Tyrann Mathieu put his hands in his face. If he's behind him, it's no way he should be making that call. And if he's behind the Vikings player, he should not be making that call. And if he's in front of the Vikings player, it's no way you make that damn call because you can clearly see that he's not touching him in the face. Absolutely awful call. That's a 3rd and 10. The Vikings are going to have to punt. But if they go for it on 4th and 10 and we get a stop right there, the ball game is basically over, man. We're up 3. Next, after that pass interference, they're both arm wrestling, Thielen and Lattimore. It's not really anything there. And it's, was it 4th down right there or was it 3rd down again? I don't remember. It was 4th or 3rd down. Kirk Cousins is throwing up a prayer. He's just trying to get a flag, and you cannot bail teams out when they do dumb shit like that. The ref bailed him out again. Marshawn Lattimore gets his face mask grabbed, head turned by Adam Thielen, and they call defensive pass interference. I mean, we can't get a face mask on that. We can't get an offensive pass interference on that. We can't get anything. But no, you could give us a defensive pass interference, and the referee is right there. He's looking dead at it. He's looking dead at it. Both of those guys are arm wrestling. Yeah, that happens. But you can't grab my face mask, turn my head, and then throw a flag on me. Especially when the quarterback just throwing up a fucking prayer that we almost picked off, that we should have picked off, honestly. Absolutely awful by the refs. Dog shit job by the refs. But I'm just so used to that it doesn't even surprise me anymore. It just doesn't surprise me. We'll see what happens moving forward with the team, man. Got a game against Seattle, a winnable game. This was a winnable game. We have to win that game or the season's going to be looking very, very dim because the schedule gets tough. The schedule's going to get much tougher. You got the Seahawks, Bengals, Cardinals, Raiders, Ravens, Steelers, Rams, 49ers, Bucks. That's your next games. So if you don't beat the Seahawks, it's going to be very, very spooky for the Saints. So we'll see what happens next week. I'll definitely have the game film breakdowns on this game, man. That's a very, very tough loss. A game we should have won. Like I said, we can blame the refs, but, man, we had chances. We didn't convert. Actually, before I get out of here, let's talk about special teams. Special teams unit, god-awful. God-awful special teams unit. I'm sorry. The return game, awful. I saw the funniest tweet I saw was, hey, we need Deontay Harris back because Deontay Hardy sucks. And I agree. Deontay Hardy hasn't been good. I said this a couple of weeks ago. People say, he had to have opportunities. He doesn't have space. He doesn't have this. The guy just isn't doing it. We need to find a replacement at punt returner, at kick returner. I said it. I know what he was 2 years ago. I do not care what you was 2 years ago. I care about what are you doing now. If we care about guys 2 years ago, let's get some old players back from 2 years ago. If we're going to just talk about what he did 2 years ago. I'm tired of it. He hasn't done anything. He fumbled. Cost us big points right there. We need to get better in those situations. JT Gray did look good. Will Lutz, absolute stud, man. Absolute stud. Should have made 2 60-yard field goals, man. Just unlucky on that last one. Just very, very unlucky, unfortunately. But the return game, that unit, it stinks. We've had field goals blocked this year. We've missed field goals this year. It's just bad. No return game whatsoever. We got penalties all on that unit. Gave up that fake punt. That unit has been very, very awful. We got to get that shit together. We got to get it together, man. All 3 phases of the game. We finally have a good defensive showing. Special teams was okay. Defense stinks. Special teams stinks. Offense stinks. Defense great. We got to get all 3 phases clicking, or it's going to be a long season. It's going to be a very, very long season if not. So, man, we'll see what happens with this team. Dennis Allen's got to get it together. I'm putting 90% of this game on coaching, 5% on Lattimore, the rest on the rest. That's just how I look at it, man. We just got to be better. We just got to be better. As simple as that, man. Thank y'all for tuning in once again. As always, this is DaBoot Tragedies, and I'm out.